Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. I have Adam joining me once again. A few less co-hosts than usual, but they've got their own thing going on. But me and Adam, I'm sure, can take the helm, and we'll be asking Harrison lots of questions about the Indianapolis Colts. We're back with the future of the franchise series, keeping with the defensive theme, because 3 of the last 4 players outside of Kadarius Toney have been defensive players. And we're going to talk about another one now with the Colts pick at 21, with Kwity Paye, the defensive end, being taken in April, being taken by the Indianapolis Colts. And we are joined by Harrison, who is part of the team with the number one account for the UK Colts fans. They run podcasts, they do YouTube, they have loads of articles on there, a big team over there that is all for all Indianapolis Colts stuff for the UK fan base over here. Some cracking stuff on there. Harrison, I hope you've been doing all okay. Cracking flag behind you. Have you got a name and number on that jersey as well?
This is actually a custom jersey, so it's my own name. Woods is my last name. And
Very
it's
nice.
Number 17, which has nothing to do with Philip Rivers. It is just my lucky number.
We thought for a moment that the Colts fans was really taken in Philip Rivers and didn't want him to go then for a second, but really it's just relating to your favourite number.
Yeah. I mean, I think we did take him in, considering he kicked us out of the playoffs enough times. I think we took him in rather well.
So we're going to be talking about your number one pick in the first round pick in the draft. Obviously, it was a bit of a while ago now, back in April, but still lots to talk about with him. With Kwity Paye, the 22-year-old, originally from Guinea, from Africa, moved to America, went to Michigan. What was your reaction on the night when Kwity Paye got picked by the Colts? A defensive player that had a lot of hype before the draft. Very interesting, very intriguing from a very, famously good defensive college side. So what was your reaction on the night to that?
I think I woke up the whole street, and that's an understatement. I was ecstatic. Honestly, I was gobsmacked because I couldn't believe this guy fell to 21. I was like, not a chance he falls to 21. And I had to reel myself in a little bit when I started getting shouted at,
Well, that would have been at what, like 3 a.m. by that point, 3:30?
Yeah, something like that. Something like that.
Yeah. So obviously a jubilation was the reaction. And whereabouts do you live? Where are you from?
I live in Bolton, so just outside of Manchester, for those who don't know.
So the streets of Bolton were erupting with your vocal cords screaming, let's go Colts, Kwity Paye's here with us, and we're going to be an incredible defensive unit, let alone you are already.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I was sat there, and you start thinking to yourself, this was a year where Chris Ballard couldn't work his draft magic. He just couldn't do it again. It was impossible for him. Was too low down to pick up a decent quarterback. But we wasn't high enough to trade up, that sort of thing. It was just like, how's he going to do it? And you're watching it going, it's going to happen. And you see things unfold before your eyes. And even I can't remember who traded up just before us. I think it might have been the Giants, if I remember rightly. And I was like, okay, so he's definitely gone then. And then they didn't pick him up. And to be honest, just couldn't believe it.
What was it that impressed you the most about Paye? I mean, is there any particular specific attributes that you like from his time at Michigan, or is there anything that you're just really looking forward to seeing when he starts playing this year?
I mean, I went back and it's easy to go back and watch highlight reels at Michigan, isn't it? That's what all college players do. They manage to get highlight reels out there. That's what good agents do. So I tried finding some fuller games online to watch. And the one thing that really did stand out was you can get hands on him all you want if you're an offensive lineman. He's still going to go through you. You can try and stop. You can't stop him. You can just slow him down because he is going to go either through you or around you. And that, honestly, just if you get a chance, go and watch his plays. And you'll see what I mean, where no matter what gap he blitzes or whether he goes around the outside, what he's trying to accomplish, he just got one thought in mind, and that's, I'm going to go through this guy in front of me.
Do you think that they'll be able to translate, and will he be able to adapt that in the NFL where, you're completely correct. He had an amazing bodywork to be able to get through guys, and athleticism, his speed and his strength as well to push over the offensive linemen that were in front of him and to get into the gaps that he wanted to and dominate there. However, obviously the NFL, big step up, better O-lines. There's a lot of great O-linemen out there. Luckily enough for him, a lot of the great O-line out there are on his own team. So he's not going to have to worry about going up against the likes of Quentin Nelson or Eric Fisher for that matter. Do you think he'll be able to adapt in the NFL with that style, or do you think there's going to have to be tweaks?
There's always got to be tweaks. And from learning from Chris Ballard and watching a lot of his press conferences over the years, he's been the Colts GM, is we don't stop building. Just because we got a player, we don't stop building. And it's not about trying to not get too preachy here, but it's not about making Kwity Paye the best defensive lineman out there. It's about how can Kwity Paye make the Colts a better team. And I think that's an attitude we see with a lot of rookies, is they think they're going to come in there, be the star player, be the franchise player. They want all the money getting paid. So for me, the tweaks, it all comes down to, because he's earned the right to have this attitude, Kwity Paye. Let's be honest, he's a monster, the guy. How we control his ability into channel it into his play, if that makes sense.
So given that you were really happy about the pick, sounds like half of Bolton heard about how happy you were about the pick. Was there, and you've watched some tape on him at his time in Michigan. I mean, was there any are there any weaknesses? Are there any concerns that you have when it comes to him playing for the Colts this year?
My one concern is he jumps on his own hype train. That is my major concern. As a Colts fan, I saw it a little bit last year with Jonathan Taylor. And if you watch at the start of the season, he couldn't figure out, like you said, Freddie, it's a different level of athleticism at the NFL. And before Marlon Mack got injured and Jonathan Taylor was the number 2 running back, he couldn't figure out that he just couldn't run around guys. It just doesn't work in the NFL. When you got linebackers like Darius Leonard, who side-to-side speed is phenomenal. You've got to learn how to read the game. So for me, Kwity Paye is a fantastic player and a generational talent at his position. I just hope he doesn't get on the hype train. He listens to DeForest Buckner. He listens to Kamoiko Tare, these sort of guys who've been around a little bit. And he really soaks it in. Because if he doesn't, a great quarterback can spot a blitz coming a mile off, and they can just dink and dunk, and you will get ripped apart. And that's what Phillip Rivers was good at. That's what Peyton Manning was exceptional at. And if he doesn't learn how to control his blitzing and control his movement and these moves and these line movement, it will get exposed at the NFL level.
Do you feel that he will have like you were talking about DeForest Buckner and players of that caliber? I mean, do you feel that these are the right guys for him to help him to be able to do that? Because, like you say, it is a big step up. So, I mean, do you think that they will be able to sort of like almost harness him in and sort of like get him to that sort of standard for you?
I mean, to be honest, I look more behind the scenes for that. And what I mean by that is it's excellent bringing someone like Kwity Paye in. Now, imagine bringing someone like Kwity Paye in to be taught by Robert Mathis. Learning to play against that great O-line. He's going to be matching up against Quentin Nelson in practice. 80% of the time. He's going to be matching up against Braden Smith, who's a great right tackle and that great offensive indie line at the minute. And it's sort of like, to flip it, it's like the Carson Wentz situation. He has all the tools around him. He's just got to learn how to utilize them and learn how to, DeForest Buckner was fantastic last year at getting QB hits, but half the time QB hits aren't enough to stop a play being completed. And the sad fact was we couldn't get to the quarterback, and that's what killed us in the playoffs. We've added someone who, for me, I don't want him to come in and be number one defensive end in the league. I don't want him to come in and be the next Aaron Donald. Donald, sorry, not Darnold. I want him to come in and take away the attention from DeForest Buckner, because you can't double both them guys all the time. And if he does that, that's where I'll be happy.
I think it was a really interesting point you made about what I would call it, getting humbled. You said about Jonathan Taylor coming into the league, trying to do what he used to do at college, thinking that was going to work. It didn't work. Obviously, you then get the unfortunate injury to Marlon Mack. He then has to learn the game a lot quicker and get NFL ready a lot quicker. And by the end of the season, I mean, everyone was gobsmacked of how well he was doing. I mean, gobsmacked's the wrong word, because I think we always expected him to be very good, but he adapted very quickly towards the end of the season, and he was looking a lot better, and he was humbled. And I think he probably learned from people in the building. And I think you're right. Even if I wouldn't worry too much about Kwity Paye believing his own hype, maybe, because it seems like the organization is very good at getting you humbled quickly to get you back on the path to being an all-pro NFL player. There's a lot of rookies that you guys have had now that have just adapted so quickly and so well. I think of Julian Blackman was one of the ones that I really enjoyed seeing adapt so well. Obviously, you've got amazing players like Quentin Nelson, Darius Leonard, who have been in the league a few years now, but you've got them rookies and you've made them to even more. For me personally, as a player getting drafted, if the Colts drafted me, I'd be so excited. I mean, you look around, is Zach Wilson really that pleased about going to the Jets? You could argue, is Penei Sewell that happy about going to the Lions? I don't know. But if my name gets read out and I'm going to the Indianapolis Colts, that's a situation where I'm rubbing my hands together and going, wow, I'm joining a really elite organization. And I think you made a great point, Harrison, that it's not just about the players that are on the field that can teach Kwity Paye to be a better player. It's also these people in the back office. And how much confidence does that give you as a fan, knowing that back office is and that coaching team is so elite and so good and also patient but also bold as well? That we will talk probably about Carson Wentz later. We'll stick on Kwity Paye for now, but like you said, he's not afraid to make trades. He obviously brought Carson Wentz in. How does that make you feel as a fan? And how do you think the rookies who have come into the Indianapolis Colts organization must be feeling going there?
So I'll start at the beginning, which was the end of Ryan Grigson, who is the worst GM ever known to mankind and will be slapped if he's ever walked in Indianapolis, because he ruined Andrew Luck's career and he'll never be forgiven for that. So I think I have a bit of right to speak when I've watched the Colts go 2-12 with Matt Hasselbeck as our starting quarterback. So I have a little bit of a right to say we've been through the shit. We've been through the shit. Yeah. And then Chris Ballard to come in his first season, not have Andrew Luck starting, and then retire in the season after weeks before the season starts and all this. And I think how you sum up Chris Ballard is he doesn't give a shit what your name is. He doesn't give a shit what you've done the past season, what you've done there. He just wants you to come and play. And if you come and play, you'll get paid. And we've had a lot of players, like you say, humbled by the GM who's gone, I'm not going to pay you that. Eric Ebron being the main example. He thought he was worth a lot more, and Chris Ballard went, that's okay, we'll find someone else. It really is about the culture. And you look at the guys, you mentioned Darius Leonard and Quentin Nelson. Obviously, they are the two pillars of the Indianapolis Colts at the minute. And when you consider Darius Leonard was the worst draft pick, that's what it was quoted. He's the worst draft pick, and now he's top 5 linebacker. So it's hard to put into perspective as a Colts fan the journey we've been on. We was a laughing stock of the AFC South, which was the laughing stock of the league back in 2011. It was like the NFC East this year. It was god awful. And when the Jags are like winning the division and with an 8-8 record, you see why it's an awful division. But we sort of cleared out this mind that quarterbacks get paid the most and that's it, and then running backs get paid the next, and wide receivers, etc., etc. I was just watching Chris Ballard's camp press conference, and he was saying, you will regret not paying a great player. And I think it just sums up the Colts in we've adopted this attitude that we're a family, and no offense, but outsiders, you just no. Why move on? We don't care. We're gonna, and it's easy to say everyone's Super Bowl or nothing at this point of the preseason, aren't they? Everyone thinks their team's got a chance, and that's the beauty of it. But when you look at what he's done, where he's gutted all the bad apples out, he's got Frank Reich in, who's an excellent head coach. Except, I could go on forever, guys. So I'll wrap it up now. But it's all about the culture. Pardon the pun. So yeah, that's it.
So just sort of like moving back a little bit to Kwity Paye and the draft. Did you feel like a defensive lineman was the main need for the Colts in the first round? Because although you've already got a really strong defense, and there are a few potential gaps on the offensive side. Did you feel that defensive lineman was the right way to go?
At the time, it was the $1 million question between Colts fans. It really, it split our WhatsApp group in half massively. And I was really undecided. I really couldn't tell you who I would have taken. And it's as simple as that. That's why GMs get paid millions, and I'm sat here talking to you guys.
We'll get paid millions one day. We'll get there.
But no, it really was. Who do we pick? It was, we'd love Kwity Paye, but to me, it was top 10, top 15. I didn't for a chance in hell think he was falling to 21, and that's the only reason I was split on what position to take, because I didn't think Kwity Paye would fall.
So do you feel like he was the best player available then at that point? It was almost like whichever way, it doesn't really matter which way we go. This guy, it's unbelievable that he's fallen to this point, so therefore he's the guy that we take. Is that the sort of thinking?
Yeah, 100%. He was the best player on the board. Obviously, when we see him in the NFL, that's when we can make our minds up. It's easy to say now he was the best player on the board. For me, and I think the thing is what people need to see is, and we'll talk a bit more about this with Carson Wentz, we don't want people, the Colts don't want people to come in and be superstars. We don't need anyone to do that right now. We don't need anyone to come in and be a Patrick Mahomes. And I think it's come down to the coaching staff to really even out accountability and responsibility. And we will not be held accountable by, you look at the situation in Green Bay at the minute, it's an absolute mess.
They get you every time, Adam, don't they? They get you every time, mate. Every episode. By the end of this Future the Franchise series, that knife in your back will be so deep, mate. I'm sorry.
One to you, Adam, is, do you look at this like, is it all just Pat McAfee stirring up the pot, or is it general talk? Are people not happy? Because, yeah,
I genuinely think now that it's reached a point with a lot of Packers fans where they just want it sorted now. It's just been a constant media storm that's just been. It's been very petty. Everything's been very niggly, very high school drama sort of thing that we just, you don't need to happen. And, a lot of it is very much Rodgers coming out and saying things through other people, and we don't actually hear anything from him. And even now, I think the quote today was that he's expected to be at training camp, but we don't know when. We don't know if he's actually going to turn up for the first day or not, or anything like that. And he actually hasn't come out and said anything. It's just people close to him believe that he's going to be. So yeah, I think it's just now. I think most fans probably just want it sorted. And if this is the last year that he plays and the last year that Adams plays, then so be it. And we sort of like move on. And I think that's the only way you can be about it.
There's almost no one player that should be bigger than the team in a way.
No, exactly.
Which you could argue for Colts. It seems we are, talking about the Colts. The Colts are an organisation that is very quiet, is very wrapped up, is very don't really know what's going on. However, Andrew Luck was bigger than the franchise in a lot of people's minds. I mean, Peyton Manning as well. There has been that history there in Indianapolis. It's just not with the back house and with the coaching staff that you have now that situation has happened. And I think that I completely think the Colts way of what they do stuff, how they do stuff at the minute is how NFL organizations should be run. I think, Harrison, you're absolutely right. No one player needs to be a superstar. It sort of leads me on to my question is, do you think that this defense now with this pick is one of the most complete defenses in the league? Because you look at the names, you said Kamiko Turay earlier, DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, Bobby Okereke, Darius Leonard, Julian Blackmon, Rock Singh, Kenny Moore, Xavier Rhodes. There's stars there. DeForest Buckner is a superstar. Darius Leonard is a superstar. But because there's other very capable players on that defense, is it the most complete?
I would like to say, yeah. Now, the UK Colts fans will know my big concern or my big gripe with the defense is our coordinator, Matt Eberfleet. And it's easy to get frustrated at a defensive coordinator. It's easy to. Don't get me wrong. Like, my biggest problem is, like, you just named all them players there, all these like absolute dog attitude players who are going to run anywhere. And we was the second least blitzing team in the NFL last season. And that is what seriously frustrated me. And I love, let's play inverted Tampa 2 and rush with 4 only, and let's get pressure with 4. That's all well and great. But as soon as teams figured us out, we didn't know how to stop them. And that was our big undoing last year. As soon as teams and quarterbacks learned how to beat us one way, we just couldn't stop them.
I was going through your stats actually earlier today. I've got pretty much all of the defensive stats just here. And I put G and B next to them because of when I write them, I tend to forget whether that's the 8th best or the 8th worst and stuff like that. But luckily I have G and B next to them, and there's a load of G's, but there is a couple of B's. Like you said, that you allowed 3,866 passing yards, which was the 20th in the league, which is not good. That's not good to allow that many yards going over the top of you. And you allowed 16 rushing touchdowns, which was 17th. All right, middle of the pack in the league, I suppose, which isn't too bad. But you're right, you had 108 quarterback blitzes, which was 29th in the league. I mean, that stat did shock me, because when I think about your defense, I was like, well, they always seem to get the quarterback. They always seem to be roughing on getting into the offensive line, and yet they barely blitz the quarterback, actually, really. And it looks like really the obvious thing is you were beaten over the top and then on the goal line. And it's what it seems like goal line scenarios didn't do well for you with how many rushing touchdowns you allowed, but you look like you're getting beaten over the top with that. Now, the addition of having Kwity Paye, I mean, that's got to spark some life into you that hopefully stats like that can change, and that you may be able to get to the quarterback blitz quarterback a bit more and not allow as many goal line touchdowns. I don't have the breakdown whether these 16 rushing touchdowns, the average yardage of where they were from, or etc. I just have that number, but I presume, given that you did so poorly over the top, and then with rushing yards, even though you were fantastic with rushing yards, so that's what I presume is that it's a goal line thing. So having Kwity Paye, is that strike a bit more confidence in that maybe having him there will maybe alleviate that pressure of doing that?
I just hope our coordinator just lets him off the reins a bit. He held a very tight leash and a very tight mantra of bend, don't break. And that's all well and good, but it's like a soccer team playing part of the bus. There's so many times you can defend that cross. They're going to throw 100 crosses in, they're going to score 1. And that's what really frustrated me. Adding Kwity Paye to this line, and even Deo, our second round pick, who is who's right behind Kwity Paye in talent. Having these guys in, I just need to see him let him go for one game, even if it's a nothing game, if it's a dead rubber game, just blitz all night. To quote "Remember the Titans," just really go in there and try and hurt someone, because this defense is stacked. I didn't think we was getting Xavier Rhodes back, and when we got him back, I was like, okay, we don't need a cornerback anymore. And then Anthony Walker went to the Browns, so I was a bit gutted about that. But again, Bobby Okereke, and I could go on about players. Kenny Moore is a ridiculous player. Getting a one-hand interception on Darren Waller, who's probably 3 times taller than him.
That was one of the plays of the year last year. That was so good, that play. And
our defense we just can't get off the field on third down. And that was the big frustration. What I think all Colts fans felt is we was great at stopping the run on first down, and then swatting it away on second down, and then a 3rd and 7 or a 3rd and 11, and we'd give up 15 yards, and it's like again
the frustration.
Yeah.
So I mean, how do you feel about bringing Carson Wentz in, and also how do you feel about the trade as well, and what you've had to pay for it? I mean, do you think it's a good deal for you, or and do you think that he's the right man to be able to push you further along?
I'll be brutally honest. When the rumors started flying, Carson Wentz was I didn't want to touch him. I wouldn't touch him with a barge pole, because I just really didn't want anything to do with what he'd been through. Me personally, I wasn't prepared to take on a quarterback who seems all right and calm on the outside when you watch him in interviews with Pat, or you see him on YouTube doing, training with the guys. He seems all right, but you really don't know how damaged he is from that last year. He got sacked over 50 times in a season. That's ridiculous. Even for an awful offensive line, that's ridiculously bad. So for me, it was just like, can we bring this guy back to a serviceable quarterback? Don't get me wrong, as soon as he touched down in Indianapolis, he's my QB, and that's it. We're going to the Super Bowl 17-0. So for the price, you look at what Matt Stafford went for, which I thought was extortionate by the Lions. I don't know how they got away with that one. That was robbery. And considering it's going to be a first rounder, because the Colts, I'd like to think we make the playoffs, and a 3rd rounder, I believe. I can't remember which one it was. So it's probably a late first rounder next draft, and then the 3rd rounder from this year, I think it was.
Yeah,
it's incredibly cheap. It's like going shopping at B&M and finding a deal on a live, laugh, love poster. So it's incredibly cheap.
So do you think
that's one of the best comparisons to Carson Wentz I've ever heard? Is Carson Wentz is comparable to a live, laugh, love poster. None of us want it, but they do seem to be everywhere. Just like Carson Wentz.
So do you think that he will be able to, because obviously Rivers got you to the playoff game. Like you say, obviously it might take some time for him to get back, hopefully, especially with the coaching as well, with Frank Reich being there. I mean, do you think that will help him get back to how he was at the beginning of his career, and maybe push you on just that little bit further?
I think, first of all, the game plan, we have to run the ball through Jonathan Taylor. We just have to. When he's this hot, you just have to go through him. I think it is an upgrade to Phillip Rivers. I'm not saying, before people start commenting, I'm not saying Wentz is better than Rivers, or not yet. But Phillip Rivers had one leg and half an arm. and he somehow dragged this Colts team to the playoffs. We couldn't even do play actions because of how unmobile Phillip Rivers was. We had to bring Jacoby Brissett in just to try and sneak half a yard. So to bring someone in like Carson Wentz, who we have seen can escape, he did it for the Eagles enough times. It's just win-win for the offensive line, who's not going to have to work as hard, and for Carson Wentz, who can actually sit in the pocket and go, well, Quentin Nelson's just got two guys by the scruff of the neck and has got them on the floor, so I don't need to run 30 yards. And we all saw the effect of what having an oil line does when we watch the Super Bowl. Patty Mahomes running 900 yards to throw for 3 yards. It's crazy.
Harrison, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. Where can we find the UK Colts stuff on social media and online, my man?
Just Twitter at UK Colts fans. It's the same if you go on YouTube at UK Colts fans, you'll see us. As soon as you go on one of them two, you're going to find the links to everything else.
Smashing. Well, again, we really appreciate you coming on, my man. Thank you for chatting to us about all things Indianapolis and Kwity Paye as well. Thank you to Adam as well for joining me once again. Thank you for you guys for watching and your continued support. We are getting, it's less than 50 days now to the start of the season. Things are heating up. More things are coming out there. Lots of drafts in fantasy football have started now. So the football vibe is really starting to grip us now as we get ever closer to the start of the NFL season. But until then, keep watching the Franchise Tag podcast and the Future of the Franchise series. Have a great week, and we'll see you all very soon.